Hello, and welcome to Curated Classics, the channel that shares the most famous and popular stories from books, films, and history in quick summaries so that you can learn the classics quickly without hours of reading or years of expensive courses. Today, you are listening to The Yellow Wallpaper, a seminal work in American literature written by feminist author Charlotte Perkins Gilman. It was first published in 1892 in an issue of the New England magazine. This short story is often lauded as an important feminist piece that addresses topics of women's rights, the subjugation of women in marriage, and the inadequate treatment of mental health issues among women in the 19th century. For a more in-depth understanding of the book, we will now provide a breakdown. The story is written in the first person and takes the form of a series of journal entries penned by an unnamed female narrator. She is a new mother and is married to John, a rational and practical doctor. The couple, along with their baby and John's sister Jenny, who acts as the housekeeper and nurse, have rented a grand isolated country estate for a few months during the summer. The narrator is suffering from what we today understand as postpartum depression. However, her condition is not recognized as such at that time. Her husband, believing it's merely a case of nervous depression, prescribes a rest cure. This cure was a common treatment during that era, propagated by Dr. Silas Weir Mitchell. It involved isolating the patient and enforcing bed rest, forbidding any mental or physical activity. Now let's dive into the setting. The house they are renting is described as an old mansion, which the narrator initially likens to a haunted house. The room they stay in used to be a nursery and has barred windows, reminiscent of a mental asylum. The room's wallpaper is yellow with a complex, chaotic pattern. As we delve further into the story, the wallpaper becomes almost a character in itself. The narrator describes it in great detail. Its yellow color is sickly and repellent, and the pattern is nonsensical and irritating. The narrator initially loathes it, but as she spends more time in the room, she becomes obsessed. We can view the wallpaper as a symbol of the narrator's mental state and the oppressive society she lives in. Just like the pattern of the wallpaper, society's norms and her husband's control confine her. This suppression of her creative impulses and the isolation exacerbates her depression and anxiety. The narrator begins to see a figure in the wallpaper. She becomes convinced it's a woman trapped behind the pattern. This woman creeps around, and over time, the narrator identifies more with her. This creeping woman can be seen as a symbol of the narrator's trapped psyche and her confinement by societal norms. As days turn into weeks, she begins to lose her sense of time and self. She starts to sneak out of bed to write in her journal, which she has to hide from John and Jenny, as writing is forbidden. Her entries become more frantic. Historically, it's important to understand how in the 19th century, women were expected to conform to their roles as wives and mothers, and their mental and emotional needs were often ignored. This story brings to light the detrimental effects of such ignorance. In the climactic ending, the narrator's mental state has fully deteriorated. She believes she must free the trapped woman in the wallpaper. On the last day of their stay, she locks herself in the room and tears off the wallpaper in shreds. When John finally breaks into the room, he finds his wife creeping around, and he faints. The narrator continues to creep over him, symbolically rising above the oppressive forces in her life, but at the cost of her sanity. Charlotte Perkins Gilman, through this profound psychological tale, advocates for the importance of intellectual and emotional freedom for women. Gilman herself suffered from postpartum depression and was prescribed the rest cure. Her personal experience is reflected in this poignant story. The Yellow Wallpaper remains an influential text studied for its rich symbolism, feminist themes, and its haunting psychological depth. It is as much a piece of horror as it is a social critique and continues to be relevant today as we further our understanding of mental health, gender, and societal roles. Thank you for listening to Curated Classics. If you enjoyed this story and it provided valuable insights, we hope you will give this video a like by clicking the thumbs up, sharing it with other lifelong learners, and please check out more of the greatest stories throughout history on the Curated Classics channel. See you next time.